What's poppin', real fucking gamers? Welcome back to the 34th iteration of the Nifty Cauldron podcast. I'm one of your esteemed hosts, Kelly, and this is my esteemed co-host.
It me, Milan. What's up?
What's up, my dude? It's been a minute. We didn't have a podcast recording last week. Maybe you would like to tell the class on why that happened.
Maybe I don't want to tell the class.
Okay, dope. I don't give a fuck, bro. There wasn't one. The end, bitch. End podcast.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
See you next week. Yeah.
The glasses slide down and just deal with it.
Glasses slide down. There also isn't an episode this week. You've been tricked. Boom.
Yeah. Deal with it.
Yeah, no, sure. Before we do, though, remember to hit the like button if you like what we do, if you want to see more of what we do, or hear more, I guess. Subscribe, maybe hit that bell so you don't miss one when we actually do upload weekly.
Yeah, and give us that sweet fucking vanity URL so we can finally be mommy milkers.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just tell the full story rather than recap it, because even though I've told it a couple times by now, and none of it has been on the podcast yet. So by the time this airs, 2 Fridays ago, if you're listening to this on the day that it releases, if you're listening it in the future, I don't fucking know, like the 22nd, I think, of May.
Some just straight up some Doctor Who shit. They're listening to it like 3 days in the future, like mad people. I don't know.
Well, more like if you listen to this like months down the road, like 2 Fridays ago, it's going to be annoying, right? But somewhere in May, I think the 22nd off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Or no, like, I don't know, somewhere, whatever, doesn't matter. Pretty much right before stream, my brother called me from Serbia. He's like, hey, I just got the news that mom has COVID. So that's a big concern. I'm pretty sure I've talked about it before. She's in prison in Serbia. So she isn't really getting any care to speak of. She's not like hospitalized or anything like that. As far as I know, she's just quarantined off with other people who have COVID. And it's just kind of a waiting game. I'm pretty sure, I hope they at least check temperature daily, but I don't think they have to do more than that. But because she's in quarantine, we can't visit, we can't call. She's had 1 shot so far. I've heard it helps. I've also heard it does nothing. So I don't know where that stands or which shot she got, or, not to make it political, but Serbia isn't exactly a first world country, I would say. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to prisoners, right? That the quality of the shot might not be the best one.
Yeah, they gave her they gave her Pfizer, but it was with like a rusted needle.
Yeah, like
rusted used.
They gave her Pfizer, but it's like just an F, like the P is missing, just Pfizer.
It's just, it's like the Kirkland Pfizer, except not, because Costco goes high key fuck, but it's just like it's like a J instead. It's Jizer.
So I can't really speak on that, but the unfortunate part of the situation, and this is where we get sad boy hours, is currently there's 2. Yeah, I mean, hopefully by the time this airs, it'll have passed, because at that point 2 weeks will have gone by, so I should actually know. Mm-hmm. But as it stands, there's two outcomes, right? The outcome number 1 is in a week or so, like give or take a couple days, because depending, I'm pretty sure she'll be kept in quarantine until like her fever and stuff is also gone. Mm-hmm. She'll call me up, be like, hey, I lived, bitch, Yeah. just like the meme, the text where everything is okay.
Me in the club.
Yeah. Or I'll get a phone call from my brother, and he's going to be like, hey, you need to book a plane ticket for today, because we're burying mom tomorrow.
Yeah, which is insane. Like, can you also explain just kind of like the funeral practices there? Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just like, why do you have to fucking fly right back out? That's fucking
Yeah.
shitty.
So Serbia is still a very religious country. They're mostly Christian Orthodox. And part of that is just if you have to get buried tomorrow, unless tomorrow is Sunday, because that's the Lord's Day. I can't do that. So then you get buried on Monday. So, and I don't know the exact reason why. I do know that it's a whole ordeal. So it's a little bit awkward. But let's say if I lived with my mom, that makes it a little bit easier to maybe imagine. And she passes away, then that day, I also need to invite the entire neighborhood and make food for them, and just be a host for pretty much the entire night. And obviously, people are not fucking rude. They will help you. They will bring their own food, etc., etc. And it's
so much fucking work, bro.
It is. It's very exhausting because you don't even have time to really grieve. But it's meant to celebrate, like their good end to their life. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other exhausting part is somebody, and I don't like this, but somebody needs to be in the room with the body the entire night.
What the fuck?
Why? So that their spirit passes safely to the afterlife, so that they can have safe passage. But
you gotta like stand over there and be like, "Yep." That's a dead body.
As long as you don't have to stand over the body all night. That's fucking creepy. That's even creepier. As long as you're in the room, yeah.
Oh, you have to be in the room with it?
Yep.
Bro, but at the same time, like, what the fuck do they do when, like, I don't know, like, what if somebody dies and no one claims the body? What do you do then?
Pinch your nose, bro. What do you mean?
No, I mean, like, no one claims the body. So, like, okay, so, like, when motherfuckers die here in the U.S., right, and if no one comes and claims the body, they just go, oh, and they just, like, burn that shit and, like, yeet it into the oblivion. Like, what happens if no one claims the body in Serbia?
I actually don't know because, I grew up in a very village. I mean, I didn't grow up I grew up in a village and surroundings. So most people die at home. Most people don't have the luxury. And I think that's probably where the whole religious thing stemmed from initially when I think about it. Probably because, like, hey, we don't have a way to keep a body cool, so let's just bury it the next day.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. But also, yeah, you don't start rotting instantaneously unless, like, conditions are terrible where it's super warm.
Yeah, if during the summer, you definitely do.
You start rotting instantaneously. Bro, so you just get, like, nose plugs and then just say, like, but you gotta hang out with that body, make sure it gets home safe, bro.
Yeah. And then after that, if you're in a village, the whole funeral process is also very unique, I would say. So what you do, the funeral process, pre-funeral, I don't know if it has an official name or not, starts at your house because that's where the body is. They get dressed up, they get put in a casket, all that. The embalming does happen. And then you have to carry the casket to the plot.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, not typical, like, specifically, okay, because, like, I have experience with both funerals that are, like, Buddhist and then funerals that are not Buddhist. Like, I have Christian funerals, specifically Orthodox. So those are, like, my experiences. And to be honest, the Buddhist festivals, fuck, dude. The Buddhist celebrations of life are, like, hella fun. Not gonna lie.
Oh, I mean, this isn't really a celebration. It's just, you and your immediate family or whoever you pick out, you might not have enough family members, carry the casket by foot to the plot. And
you don't get to, like, put it in a hearse? Have it driven? You have to just fucking manhandle it?
Unless you really don't have the people who can carry it, right?
Everybody's old and, like, enfeebled.
For example, but even then, somebody younger will step up and carry it for you. And then people who...
Do you get special gloves to wear?
I don't know. No.
You get fancy gloves when you carry a dead body here.
Nah, over there you just got kind of get fucked. And then whoever paid the church or the priest who's doing the ceremony, because it's a service, they will stop at your house for a couple minutes, and then like you know everybody says a prayer, and then you move on. So if you were really popular, it can take hours to reach, and also depending on where you live, and you know how
you're
far
just
away you
holding
live
that
from the
shit for an
graveyard.
hour?
Yeah, potentially hours. My grandparents live very far away from the graveyard. Like without a casket, it's like half an hour walk. So I think my mom said it took like 4 hours to get there.
Fuck that. Like y'all literally just can't like put her in a fucking wagon and be like, salute her as she goes, boys.
Nope.
That's
And
fucked up.
Then you get to the graveyard, and then you do the whole, you know, funeral, and then you get to go home and cook for everybody again. And then,
bitch, you're grieving. Like, leave me the fuck alone.
Nope. And then when everybody goes home, then you get to sleep because you haven't slept probably in over 24 hours at this point because somebody had to stay with the body. And it's usually you or one of your siblings, right? Or your parents or whoever. And then you get to grieve and sleep.
Bro, it's like extremely motivating for you, like in Serbia, to have more than one child.
Not die. Yeah.
Well, to not die, but also have more than one child, so this doesn't like fall on fucking one person. That'd be shitty.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, if she passes away right now, it's 8 p.m. here for context. I have to get a flight to ideally be there before midnight, but I don't know how it would work because it's in prison. I don't know if that would even be applicable, like the whole pre-funeral process, or if they would handle the body, or if there's like any risk of infection, or I'm not sure about that, but assuming that wasn't the case, like assuming she's just at home normally, I would need to fly out tonight and do all. Well, I guess tomorrow is Sunday, so I would have an extra day. I'd be one of the lucky ones, but normally I would just have to do all of that. So it's just
yeah, that's a lot of fucking shit.
Yeah, so
that's totally different than how. Well, so I have the most experience specifically with like, I guess, like Buddhist funerals, because of my aunts and uncles are primarily Buddhist. And they're just, they sound way better than that, dude. One, there's not a set amount of time in which you have to go and like bury the body or whatever. In fact, like you can go ahead and like, you know, if they like cremate the body and stuff like that, it's more about like a celebration of life. So I'm trying to think about like the latest one or whatever, but the one that that I think of more vividly, I guess, is my grandma's funeral. But like, you know, she was buried in a traditional Buddhist sense. So we went to the cemetery. They already had her casket there. And we had to tie these red sashes on our arms, which were like ripped from like a special cloth that like the Buddhist nun gave us. And then we tied it to our arm. And then, trying to think back, because that was like a few years ago. But then the nun would sing, and she would like sing, say prayers, and then hit like a bell at like intervals in which like the prayers would be ending or coming forward and stuff like that. But it's super pretty because they're singing, so you're just kind of like, yeah, this is nice, and like it's like very like peaceful. And then they load up the casket, and then they drive it over like in a hearse typically, and then they unload the casket, and then at the gravesite the nun like sings another prayer, and then they lower the casket, but you can't fucking look at it. You're not allowed to look at the casket as it's being lowered in the ground.
Yeah,
it's like considered like bad luck. It's considered like super shitty. If you are looking at the casket when it gets lowered into the ground, basically you curse yourself and saying you're next. So you're not supposed to look at it as it gets lowered in the ground. And then, because I remember my mom like holding my fucking neck down, so I didn't fucking look at it. Like she was
And
like,
you're like, but I want to be next. Mom, please. Don't take this from me.
Snaps eyes wide to like perish. But like, yeah, I remember her like death gripping the back of my neck and forcing my head down so I didn't look at it because it's considered just bad luck. And so after that is lowered, the people that went and like held the casket, the gloves that they used, they put that in the grave too.
Okay, that makes
they're
sense.
Considered like tainted, right?
Yeah.
By death. So the people that carry the casket over and put it on the little thing to lower it down, they're considered tainted by death. You throw them in afterwards, and then typically like the firstborn son throws the first piece of dirt on the grave, and then they bury them. Then you go back to the and this can happen. It happens either before or after. For this particular time, I think because of the rental situation with the funeral home, we had to go back and do it because another ceremony was like butting up against it. But I think for my uncles, while he was in the room and we were like, the nun was singing, because the nuns there all the time, bitch. Shout out to the nuns, dude. And it's usually nuns, like, because I don't know if like the priests are like too busy and shit, but every single Buddhist festival festival of life for the most part, or funeral, it's always been nuns. And yeah, they usually come in like their traditional garb with the like yellow like tunic with the red sash, and they have like a shaved head, like they're completely bald. And then so they sing, and then for my uncles or whatever, the next part is like the best part, at least in my opinion. When I was a kid, I got hype as fuck. But basically, you take little paper offerings that are like in the like they're like origami paper, like that are like and sometimes not even origami, like sometimes they're full on like things, like just full on like paper, just paper mache versions of something, but like there'll be like a full-on house, like a dollhouse made out of paper, and you throw that and you burn it. Like you burn it inside like a giant like tin thing, and then like they make little paper cars, and you burn the paper cars and stuff. And like all this, like you basically burn these different offerings so that they have that in like the afterlife.
Yeah, no, that's at the same time very similar to, I guess, most funeral practices, but also still different enough. And it's really good practice, honestly. I really wish Serbia wasn't that hardcore. Like I'm sure if you're not close to the person, it's pretty aight. You get to eat, you get to feast twice and shit, but
eat twice. But if you're literally the person, it's awful. That sounds awful.
Yeah, it is awful. Like my mom did not have a good time when her parents passed away. She had help, and my uncle was there, obviously, but it's still like it is awful. But yeah, that's the main reason why we didn't have an episode last week, to tie it back. Like originally, so I guess people know because we gush about her all the time. We normally have an editor who is doing this out of pure love for us.
Thank you.
but so that means when work comes up, when she gets busy, she has to take an understandable backseat because, like, obviously this is free shit, right? Compared to get that bread, right? So something came up, and I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, I'll just edit it. And then this happened. Like, I guess I'm not gonna edit anything. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna sit this one out. So
yeah. But also shout out to our editor. Thank you for everything that you do, even though you're not going to be probably editing this specific podcast, but just shout out to you. You're a badass doing that. We love you.
Yes.
Yeah. But the burning of the stuff is like the coolest part, because, you're a kid and you're just like fire. And then like you get a bunch of like paper money too that you burn. And it's basically all those different, and you even get paper people for like kind of fucked up, but you basically give them paper people to like serve them in the afterlife.
Yeah,
which is slavery. But then yeah, that's like what you do, and it's like kind of a good time. And then afterwards, they typically just book a banquet hall, and then you go, and everybody just like eats a fuck ton and chills, and then afterwards you go home. And usually you're done by like 3, and you go home and you chill out. Like you get there by like 10 a.m. and you're done by like 3, and you go home.
Yeah.
Totally different than the shit in Serbia where you're just like, haha, feed them again.
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, people, like I said, like the neighborhood will make food and bring it to you, just because they know they know it's so taxing, and they'll clean and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
So most people don't really make a big fuss out of it. Like you'll either just eat the leftovers, or if somebody hears about it, someone will like go and buy a pig and roast an entire pig for the feast and stuff like that.
Damn.
So plenty of leftovers for later, or just like reheat the soup and all that. So people are considerate enough, because everybody knows like this shit sucks, but it's tradition, and tradition is just fucking peer pressure from dead people, bro. Just gotta do it, because some people long ago decided this is the way, and that is how it be,
Yeah, for sure. It's I don't know. Death in different cultures is totally wild, and the way that they handle it is totally different. So, at the same time, it's I don't know. Funeral rites are super interesting. Like there's like a tribe, I think, in like Papua New Guinea, where when somebody dies, they bury them in the house where everybody else lives. They just bury them under the ground. So there's just a dead body underneath you.
Oh yeah, there was also like a similar thing where you get buried in the table, like you get preserved in the table, I should say. And I think I forget which country or which culture it was, but I think the mindset behind it was so now you can support your family even in the afterlife kind of situation.
Yeah, dude. So you're just like chilling, and you look down and you see like fucking Uncle Dennis just chilling in the table, and you're like, hell yeah. Man.
Well, I mean, I would hope most people don't get like a glass see-through table for it.
That's the only way to do it.
I mean, I think the biggest issue I would have with that is it would just be really hard to get over the person. Like, imagine if you're like parents and like your child dies at like the age of 2 or something.
Yeah.
Like that's just very grim. But I suppose if that's your culture, that's how you grew up, then if that's how you treat death, you probably look at it differently than most westernized people, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely. So I guess if you're listening to this podcast and you have some sort of, connection to or a different type of funeral rite that your particular culture practices, we would love to hear about it. Go ahead and comment below. And while you're down there, I don't know, maybe hit that bell, give us a like. Type fuck moon elves, who knows?
Definitely do that.
Alrighty. So now with a completely good segue, because I'm better than you. Speaking of death,
not in a week when I'm the editor.
Fuck you. Well, speaking about death, last time we had
and moon elves
and moon elves. Last time we had the podcast, we were kind of talking about specifically our D&D campaign, and we had a session on Thursday, and this is now Saturday, the time of recording. So it's been about 2 days since then.
I mean, it's been 2 weeks since we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks since we talked about it on the podcast.
So we've had 2 sessions.
Exactly. Oh yeah, you're right. So yeah, we've technically had 2 sessions of kind of went down. And we kind of, speaking of death, we had a few characters hit 0 HP and fall unconscious.
You mean everybody except your character?
Literally everybody except my character, because she's the tits. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and like talk about that kind of shit. So how did Fenris feel fucking dying, dude? Lamau?
Unfortunately, not his first time getting knocked unconscious.
Was it not? Wait, was it?
I mean, since we started playing, yes, but considering his backstory and stuff, it is not the first time. Like, in the same way, and I guess this is always an interesting point that never really gets addressed in D&D. most adventurers have never killed before, but the first comment is like, let's fucking go and just murder a dude, right? Mm-hmm. And that never really gets dealt with. So in the same way, it is something I thought about if Fenris, my character, had killed before or been almost killed and stuff like that. So it wasn't his first time, but it was definitely a very scary situation. Because the encounter that happened is we were fighting shadows, shades. I don't know the official monster name.
I think it was Shadow.
And they had a strength drain, right? If you remember.
Yeah.
And it's as we found out from context clues and rules by the DM, it's a D4 on hit. Mm-hmm. If anything, I was lucky that I didn't have more HP because I have 8 strength.
Oh yeah.
And after the second hit, I was down to 2 strength.
Yeah.
So if I had more HP, I would have been attacked again, and more than likely gotten down to 0 strength, and then I'm just dead. You know. So
this is true.
So if anything, I was very lucky to go unconscious. I also found out that when you die to a shadow, a new one appears from your body.
Oh.
So the party would have been extra fucked if somebody died. Like I mean,
I wouldn't have.
I think you would have as well.
I don't know about that.
If people started dying, right? Like you would have to fight another enemy on top of it.
That's true.
It's just the encounter isn't that hard. In hindsight, we just got fucked twofold. One, it happened after we blew our entire load on the boss in terms of spells and abilities. 2, fucking DM rolled like an 18 initiative, so all 5 shadows got to go like pretty much first and just fuck upon us round 1.
And this is why in fucking 5th edition we hate that the monsters just roll once. And that's just their initiative for everybody.
I hate group initiative because it goes both ways, right? And like if the DM rolls, if he had rolled a 2, they would have gone last. Would have probably killed 1 or 2 round 1 immediately, right?
Yep.
And then like fucking love group initiative, but I don't like that either. Like it should just be, in my opinion, just everybody rolls independently and everybody takes their turn independently. That way it just feels more balanced rather than
that's how it is in Pathfinder, and that's how it is in 3.5. So for me it also doesn't make sense because I just, specifically my experiences before is just Gamora used to be our DM and she would always roll for every single one of the things initiative, and then she would just number them. She'd be like, okay, this is ghost 1, this is like ghost 2, and then she would just like roll and then put them in the initiative order that they rolled. But yeah, group initiative can be kind of rough sometimes, but also kind of beneficial. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, in my opinion. Yeah,
it's either fuck heavily or you get fucked upon heavily. While if you roll independently, it's smoother, right? Because it's because one good or bad roll can just swing the entire fight, and I don't think it wouldn't have been fun to die there. Mm-mm. After we defeat the boss of the dungeon,
which was incredibly hard.
Yeah, and then we die to basically the DM rolled too good on initiative. That would have been the reason, right?
Yeah, I mean, also at the same time, it's just like, I mean, they don't have a context for us even going into the death house, do they?
What do you mean with context?
Like, because the last time we talked about was like 2 weeks ago, so this is before we even.
Oh yeah. In that sense,
we went into the death house, but we haven't like actually. I mean, so the Moon Elves episode, we basically just dunked on Moon Elves, and but also because we're just kind of like. It was more of like a precursor, and we talked about our session 0, so we don't even have like a summary of what happened on the first time and the second time. So
I mean, we don't need to summarize everything. I don't think because I don't think we're gonna become a proper D&D podcast. But for
if you want us to, comment below.
But for some context, where we're playing the Curse of Strahd module campaign.
Yep.
If you're familiar with it, we just did the Death House because we started the campaign at level 1. Now we're level 3. We're in Barovia.
Barovia.
And that's it. That's the context.
Well, I mean, either way, we went into this big spooky house because 2 dead children were just like, I can't sleep because of the growling. And then, see, we went into this fucking house, and then this house is fucking fucked up, and there's like 360 fucking goddamn fireplaces in this whole bitch. But yeah, we ended up going into the fucking into the basement, and obviously that's where you don't want to be in a haunted house, is in the basement. Scooby-Doo poggers. So what ended up happening is like we get down there, and sure enough, yeah, there's like weird rhythmic chanting of motherfuckers, and we get into this big giant room, and there's nobody there. But then straight up, like, I think Joey, aka Cyphus, decides to throw like a flaming torch on this like mound of fire and mound of like gross moss and bones and, you know, kind of like fucked up things. And then it ended up being a giant fucking monster, and then we had to fight it, and it literally turned Cyphus into people putty.
Yeah, so
smashed him into the fucking ground.
For additional context, we're level 2 at this point.
2.
The first round the monster took, it walked up to our fighter, the Cyphus. It rolled to hit. It hit. Did 30 fucking damage.
30 points of damage. So just immediately not like smashed the fighter into people putty.
Like for context, that happened to me, to Fenris, he would have just, no death saving throw, he would just be dead. Because I would lose more than double my max HP in one hit, and below 0, just outright like dead.
Yep.
So I got really worried when one of our tanks just got clobbered for 30.
Yeah.
So basically in my head is like, all right, there's 5 of us. Now there's 4. So we have 4 turns before we party wipe.
Yeah.
And that's it. You know, like that was my thinking process. Like we're now on an official timer of 4 turns until we're dead.
Yeah.
Just one by one.
Real shit. Lucky that happy that I chose to play a cleric. Because like from the back line, I just like zippy zapped the big bad for like 20 damage or some shit with like guiding bolt.
Yeah, you did 18, and the DM said it didn't care about it, and I freaked out. Like, what do you mean it doesn't care about 18 damage?
Yeah, we did 18. I think like what was it? It was like the monster rating was like a 5 or something.
Yeah, combat rating was challenge rating was 5 or 6 even.
Yeah, so, we're level 2.
Yeah.
We're level 2, and this bitch was a fucking 5. So anyways, and apparently whenever the fucking monster would hit, it literally, it was, what is it, like a shambling mound or something like that? So whenever it hit, if it succeeded on a first attack, if the second attack hit, it would immediately try to eat that person.
Yeah, and the second attack was also the big dick damage attack that Ophelia avoided, luckily. Yeah, I think he would have also gone down if that had hit.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I mean, it's all about the luck of the dice rolls. So, the name of my character, she's a cleric, and her name is Ophelia, and she's a big dumb idiot, and I love her. But she narrowly escaped death. I feel like, because she didn't get hit with that second hit, and instead I just took 7 damage. I'm like, it's not a big deal. So I used one of my spells. I commanded the monster to drop the limpless, lifeless form of fucking people putty smudged on the ground Cyphus, but then he gets dropped in 2 feet of water, so he fails his first death.
He just starts drowning immediately.
He starts drowning. But it was either you get the monster to drop him or he gets eaten. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm pretty sure. I think I asked the DM, like, would he have died if he got eaten just straight up? But apparently it's just no. You just fail your death saving throw every round, which is, you know, bad because you know it took us a couple rounds to kill the monster. So I think Cyphus would have died in that scenario.
Well, he failed his first one and he passed his second.
Yeah, but I mean, if he had been eaten,
Oh yeah, he would have failed.
Yeah.
Every single one, right?
Yeah. And it would have just died, I think.
Yeah, he would have just died. So failing your first one, it was probably the better move. Yeah, you're low-key drowning in 2 feet of water because you're people putty, but
Yeah.
At the same time, my cleric is not very smart, and so she probably would do that regardless. It's in character for her to be like, "No, drop him."
Yeah,
Wah!
no. In character, we were one character death away in that fight from Fenris literally just like picking up your character and running out of the room. Like, we out.
We out. Bye. Duped. Yeah. Well, no one else actually ended up dying.
Exactly.
It was technically just Cyphus was knocked unconscious and turned into people putty. He turned into a smear upon pavement.
We got super lucky with rolls.
Yeah.
Like in general, we rolled really, really well.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the fuck Moon Elves actually did really well. So because of Hunter's Mark, and they did hella damage. So shout out to Aislinn. So she fucked hard, and then Ophelia fucked pretty hard, and then you actually like, dude, I'm so glad. Like, weren't you saying that your character was like considering like doing like a fucking kickflip off the mound or some shit? And then imagine
no. Basically, if I was debating between inspecting the altar, because that's the one thing we didn't do, and that would have triggered the puzzle. By the way, like, inspecting the altar triggers the ghosts, so that's why they showed up afterwards, which is kind of weird, right?
But it's also really funny because the ghosts were just like, yeah, one must die, one must die.
Yeah, it's very weird, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then, but if that did nothing, let's say, right? If I found nothing, and upon investigation, I rolled a 3, so I wouldn't have found anything, right? I was like, well, maybe because there's walls there. Maybe I just hop on the pile, like see maybe there's something in the ceiling or something. But that would have also triggered a monster. I think at that point I would have probably just been instantly grappled.
Yep.
I could have probably gotten out of it with acrobatics check or something, or maybe a dex save to dodge. But that was definitely a consideration for exploration.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very weird how. I would say that's definitely a design knock against the Death House module. So the puzzle of the house
that we didn't even do.
That we didn't
just
do.
Unga-bunga'd.
Yeah,
we Unga-bunga'd hard.
But even if we didn't Unga-bunga, there isn't really a clear way to do the puzzle. So at the end of the puzzle, at the end of the Death House, you come upon a sacrificial room, and if you inspect the altar, ghosts go, one must die. And as long as you sacrifice something, anything living, you appease the cult, the house, whatever, and the shambling mound doesn't appear. The house doesn't turn vile and spooky and doesn't try to fuck up on you, just lets you leave peacefully. But the only living thing inside the death house is a little worm creature
that we killed.
Yeah, and I think most people would kill it before finding the altar room. So most parties then have to decide which party member gets sacrificed if they want to go down that route, right?
Uh-huh.
But at this point, you're level 2, so it's just very weird that they didn't like include, actually, now that I think about it, we could have probably gone to the crypt to look if there was maybe like a surviving millipede. That would have worked, I suppose. You can leave the millipede swarm that we found for last, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's very weird that the game doesn't maybe like provide some perception checks for like nearby rats or anything of that nature to sacrifice, or maybe like make a point to have certain fish swim in that little 2 feet of water area or something, right? It's just very weird that
you have one option and one option alone.
Pretty much, right? And it's like I think that's a pretty hard ask of a level 2 party, right?
Yeah, to like kill one of their friends and just straight up, just like in character, Slife is just like, fuck these dead dudes.
Yeah.
He just dips.
But
Accept me, bro.
but I think the lesson of that fight of the Shambling Mound is to teach new players that you can run from fights.
Oh yeah, because we could have just left because their only opening was like a door and then a portcullis, so we could have just booked it out.
Yeah. The only thing I'm unsure about, and I guess I don't know what the official rules say. I think unofficially it just always depends on the DM. I wonder if you still get like experience for running from a fight like that. That is where you're quote unquote intended to run from, right?
At the same time, though, like my character probably would not run after Cyphus got fucked up.
No, of course, but it's basically like, oh shit, it spawns. Right, boys, we out. You know, like without fighting it, without trying to attack it, we just book it.
I mean, I think I'm pretty sure that's what Chris, aka Arlen Red Fox, was going to suggest, that we just dip. But because like my character specifically like witnessed Cyphus get killed, because of her like god, she would be compelled to like exact vengeance upon the mound. So somebody would have had to fucking grapple my ass and drag me out.
Yeah. No, like I very specifically asked you, I should remember after the session, like how much does Ophelia weigh? Because I don't want to have it to be an awkward situation where I want to be like, I want to grab you and like drag you along, but you're too heavy for my 8 strength. So it's like, fuck.
She's just too thick, bro.
You know?
I mean, yeah, she doesn't weigh that much. She's very petite.
I double check the math. I can definitely barely though, like you barely fall under it, but I can definitely lift and just run with you like under my arm, like.
Hell yeah, bruh. But I mean, I don't know. I had a good ass time. Like even though everybody was fucking dying when it came to the fucking shadows.
I mean, it's also because. You and I specifically, I think other people have done it or are doing it now, but before that session, we're like, I don't know if we're gonna make that alive. Let's make bonus characters. Dude, let's make a backup.
straight up. So our DM teased like, yeah, this next part's gonna be really fucking hard. You might TPK. So immediately, Milan and I were just like, okay, let's start working on our backup characters. Let's go.
Yeah, just like it started off like as a meme, like just. If our characters die, we just like slide a new character sheet over to the DM. Like, yeah. Are you sure?
All right. When is this person coming through? Kind of thing. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Character creation is probably like my favorite part about D&D. Also, my second favorite part being like the actual RP aspect, like fighting's cool and everything. But I just deep down, I just love to role play. We made secondary characters. Do you feel comfortable revealing your secondary character and concept?
Yeah. So it's not fully fleshed out because obviously no, I mean like in terms of I can't do the full on backstory because it depends on when we lose our current characters, right? Like like let's say I make my character from be native to Barovia, fuck it, right? And then 2 sessions from now, we're like 500 miles away from Barovia. Like, all right, this is a little bit awkward now, right?
Yeah,
yeah. So in that sense, not fully fleshed out. But it's a warlock. She's a human warlock who is chaotic neutral. Because
neutral, my favorite alignment.
Because all she cares about is knowledge, really. And I'm going to play her very like excited and like chipper and just inquisitive, not naive, but like when we're in danger, like instead of like panicking, she's gonna be like taking notes about like the monster's anatomy and like just being excited by the new knowledge that's being amassed. Mm-hmm. And I think archetype, I think it's called Undying or Undead. Because her final goal, out of character spoiler, is I don't know how open she will be about this, but her end goal, like most warlock, is to be a lich, and not because she wants to like rule the world, anything like that. It's just humans live too short of a life, and there's too much knowledge in the world to consume it all in 100 years. So clearly, lichdom is the way to go.
Makes sense.
And that way I can also play her as like more of a good character that doesn't clash with the party. Like I know I would never want to do the cliche of like we're like 2 years into a campaign, we're at the end, and then surprise, I turn into a lich and I want to fight the party. Like I don't want to do that, you know?
Yeah. You just want the knowledge. So your new character is possessed by inquiry and bloodlust.
Yeah, like by inquiry and just Eldritch Blast, you know?
Eldritch Blast. Yeah, I mean that's totally cool. I mean, I like that concept. I mean, clearly we've like talked off stream about it.
Off stream, huh?
Off stream.
Yeah, I know.
Pod, you know what I mean? Shut the fuck up. Eat my ass. So for me, I made a backup character, and I was torn between two archetypes. And then when we finished our last session, I'm glad I didn't go with the other one. But I was torn between making like a Dhampir, either Paladin or Eldritch Knight. But then we found out that Cyphus went the path of the Eldritch Knight. So now I'm like, all right, now I probably won't make an Eldritch Knight. But I'm still... So basically, if this character wipes, I have another character that I'm going to make. And it's going to be of a Dhampir Paladin, probably. Either Fallen or not Fallen. I don't know yet.
Oh, what happened... I don't know if you want to talk about your first backup character that you made.
Oh, well, this is just the backup of the backup, because I told you I'm just obsessed with just making characters constantly. So I like.
I mean, to be fair, I also need to make a backup of my backup. I'm torn between a cleric and a barbarian.
Dude, I was also considering a barbarian. Hell yeah, bro.
And
I was looking
think,
at that shit. Yeah.
And I think it'll depend on if Ophelia is alive, because I don't want to play a second cleric in a party with an already established cleric. Although I would play mine differently, but it's definitely a case of like if Arlen doesn't make it, then Monk is also on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're kind of like
that.
weighing everything out. Like, I could probably do this. I could probably do that.
Especially now that we've learned that Chris is also considering to roll a warlock.
Yep.
A different type, Hexblade, I think, which is a melee warlock.
Yep.
So it's a completely different concept.
Yeah.
And different archetypes, so probably different personality, different everything.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't really clash, because warlocks have good. I mean, if you want them to, they have really good constitution and stuff. So it's like she wouldn't feel like a spellcaster, you know?
No, more like a melee and just zest to spellcasting, which is nice.
because warlocks get fuck all for spells beyond cantrips.
Yeah, they kind of get shit on. So my first backup character I forgot to mention was I made a sorcerer, because I typically don't play spellcasters for the most part.
Same.
So I wanted to experiment with something a little different. So I don't typically play as a spellcaster. So that's why this time around I was like, all right, I'll be like a cleric. Right. And then, so my backup character is a sorcerer, and she's basically, I kind of made her where she's just literally like a fucking loon. Like she's been living by herself too much in like her like bog witch hut. And so she's not a witch. She's a sorcerer, but either way, she's just kind of like fucking weird. I decided for a flavor, and specifically because of Barovia and because our DM like highly encouraged taking like a dark gift, as well as, not only a dark gift, but also the haunted one background.
Yeah.
So I picked that one specifically for her, and so she's a little bit of a nut job. She's been kind of living alone, and I had like an idea or concept for her backstory, but who knows what that'll be, because we'll have to pivot and move things around depending on where we are to make her fit, which is fine. But either way, I was having her just basically be kind of cursed. She constantly sees spirits, and so she'll just like turn and start talking to them, but then turn back to the party like nothing ever happened. She's a little weird, a little out of her mind, a little out of her gourd, but she's like a very attractive, like young, well, she's an elf, so she would be a half elf sorcerer. And so she'd be, kind of cute, young, very attractive, but then like she opens her mouth and then like she's just a fucking space cadet. Like she stutters, she is not good with interacting with people IRL, and then like she'll just constantly just have a conversation with a ghost and then turn back like nothing ever happened, or that you would expect that person to be there. And so you're just like, who are you talking to? And she's like, oh, no one. And she'll just like play it off like just like, yeah, just a little crazy. And I love
the first time we sleep at an inn, you wake up, the party's just gone. Like, fuck this, we're out.
Yeah. Basically, she gets abandoned for being just a fucking just weirdo, just out of her gourd weirdo. But she's very attractive, so as long as she doesn't open her mouth, like you'll never know that she's fucking weird. But you know, she's got. I wanted her to be like cursed by like an apparition, so you know, like the apparition either like fucks with her or like says some weird shit to her, and then like, you know, again she'll just like turn to the side, just be like, you know, like, stop it, you're being rude. And then she'll just turn back to the party and be like, you know, whatever, like it never happened.
I can say that.
Yeah, I can't say that to them.
They're my friends. Yeah,
exactly. So she'll just like kind of be a little bit of like a loon, like a weirdo, kind of a tweaker. Like she's going to have like weird kind of tics. I kind of want to make her where like she's like kind of low key, like scratching at her neck a lot. And just, you know, just weird shit. But the trinket that I picked were the creepy leather gloves with the ivory fingernails, just because I like the idea of her just having like gloves on constantly, and she's like clicking them and like tapping on each other, and she's just like, yeah, just a fucking weirdo. I made a tweaker. I made a fucking tweaker that's high on ghosts.
Somebody who needs their next fix ASAP.
Yeah. And I honestly like, I think she'll be super fun to RP. That's mainly like why I make my characters, is like I just like the idea of RPing them. Like specifically, what I love most about Ophelia is just the fact that she's like a fucking idiot. And so people will like say things to her, and she's like, I don't know what that means. Just straight face, just like.
I'm in a very similar mindset. Like not always from a RP standpoint. It's just like I have this concept of a character, be it personality or something I want them to be good at or do. Mm-hmm. That's all right. Let's figure out which class / archetype / feats, like what fits to make that come alive. I'm
the same way. Yeah.
It's why I love Pathfinder so much, since your options were like pretty much limitless. The only one thing, like there's been one, I guess 1.5, you could call it, things I could never really do. The half part is one time I was like, hey, let me see if I can make fucking Gilgamesh from Fate.
Yeah.
And you can in Pathfinder. However, and this is a big however, the minimum level to do that is 17. And I think that's a little bit unrealistic.
Just a little.
Like it's possible, but it's never going to feasibly happen. And then there was this other concept from I forget the author's name, the creator of Mistborn, something Anderson. Doesn't matter. He has this huge book series, which I also forget the name of. Let me know in the comments below what I'm thinking of, because I'm sure people have read Mistborn and his magnum opus. What I'm thinking of. They have the concept there where, I guess closest analogy would be like Power Rangers, where you have like specialized armor and weapons that you can summon to yourself from anywhere in the world. And that part is easy, like both in Pathfinder and 5th edition. Like it's very easy to get stuff summoned to you. In Pathfinder, you literally imbue an armor with the called enchant for like 1k gold, and you just summon it on you. It's the best thing for full play.
Yeah,
but I couldn't really make it work in giving it like special properties, right? It would just always be armor and not like a suit or something. Mm-hmm. But that's the only concept I've never really been able to fully flesh out from an idea. But everything else has been like, yeah, I can do that. So 5th edition is a little bit more limiting.
Yes,
because it doesn't have as many archetypes or classes and
up until
feats.
Now. I mean, they're trying to flesh it out, so like more things are coming up.
But it'll still always be more condensed, right? It's streamlined for it's meant to bring in new players. Like for in my case, I don't think at least mechanically, I cannot make a different rogue, like a different melee rogue than I have now. You know, like roleplay wise, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
But mechanically, my next rogue, unless I want to make him a ranged character, but is that really that mechanically different? I'm just rolling melee from a distance, or dual wield, like that wouldn't really matter. And that's just the crux of 5th edition. But at the same time, why would I roll 2 rogues in a row? You know, by the time I want to play rogue again, I'm like 10 characters deep. We're a couple years later. Like it'll be fresh again by the time I want to. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I think like most of the like I said, the best part about D&D for me is just creating the character, and
seeing
I just
it come
don't
to
want,
life.
I don't see it come to life, and then I also just don't want to like make the same character twice. Like that's not something that I'm necessarily into. Like I'd rather like explore a different route, a different thing, you know, and see if I can get that to fuck. And most of the time I like when you start building a character, you kind of do stuff for like at least for me, I do shit for flavor. I don't necessarily go for like the meta where I'm just like, I have to be like the best motherfucker in this planet. I'm like, no, I really just want to stick to like my character type and do the thing.
If I want to be the best motherfucker on the planet, I would always roll a wizard.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a wizard. A moon elf wizard. Fuck moon elves. No, for sure. Like I'm the same way. Like prime example. I'm playing a rogue. For all intents and purposes, I should dual wield because it gives me an extra instance to trigger my sneak attack. My first hit miss. I'm not going to dual wield.
Yeah. It
doesn't fit my character.
It doesn't fit your character. And in the same way, it's like mostly a cleric will have like a mace and a shield, and I'm just like, no, dude, I want to have a pike. I want to pike in people. I want to give everybody the sweet fucking anal chin music and just ram shit up their ass. So I pick pike. Exactly. I don't care. No shield for me, dude. Fuck it.
And it's like sometimes I will compromise. You know, if something's just like really, really bad, then I'll compromise and either make a different type of character or reflavor it somehow, or like ask the DM. So like tip number 1 for any player, just ask your DM if they can reflavor something. Like mechanically, my rogue uses a rapier. But like, I don't want to use a rapier. I want to use a sword cane. So like, hey, DM, can I just have a sword cane and just have mechanically be a rapier? And DM went, yeah. And that's it. End of conversation, right? Because it's meaningless for mechanics, but for flavor, for role play, it adds a lot to my character, in my opinion. So
yeah, no, I mean, it added a lot. I totally understand that, and I asked the DM for a previous on a previous campaign. I had a bard, and he used a rapier as well. So, but in his where he sheathed his rapier, he never had it on his side. It was in the head of the lute that he carried. So he would like play a ditty, and then he'd be like, okay, but now it's time to fuck. And he would take his rapier out of his fucking lute head.
I did something similar with my bard. He played the violin, and I just asked the DM, like, hey, can I just use my, the bow, is it called? What you use to play the violin with?
Yeah, the bow.
Yeah. I was like, can I just use that and say it's like a short sword for mechanics purpose? Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah. It just, basically the TLDR is if you're a DM, let the people have it, because it's going to be fun. Like, it's just going to, like, within reason, obviously.
Of course,
like,
if it's just like, hey,
broken,
can this item look like this? Or, you know, that I think for the most part, that should just be completely fine. In the same way that when you make character art, even if they're wearing full plate, you can just be like, well, they look like this, right?
Yep.
And it's just kind of, you kind of just look to the side, you know?
For sure. Yeah, I think it's just for flavor, honestly. Like it was just also just like really fucking cool, because like he'd be playing a ditty, and then, you know, specifically in combat though, he would just sing, because, you know, you gotta have both your hands ready to fuck.
Yeah.
But, you know, like just like you're in the inn, you're playing, a fight breaks out, you just take your fucking rapier out of your fucking lute head. You know.
Now I want to make a bard again as a backup character, because the bard in question only got to play for 2 sessions before we just stopped playing D&D. I think So like I never really got like that was my first and only bard. So I played it for like 8 hours. So like I don't even remember his name. I just remember he had a violin and and his performance rolls were hella high.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. My performance rolls were hella high, and I loved my bard, and I'm actually really sad that campaign stopped going because I had just got to the point where my character was learning information about. Basically, I made it so that he had like a long lost sister, and so he was looking for her constantly. And then I just got information like she had been seen through like a slaving, potentially like she had been seen through like a slaving organization that she's been moved around and like basically human trafficked. And then I was like my character was like Pog. And then we stopped playing literally after that, and I still think about it to this day. What if he found his sister? Fucked up.
Yeah.
But he was great because he himself was actually like an escaped slave, and he made up his name. He just called himself Wickham, and no one knew his real name. And then when everybody would ask him like, "What's your last name?" he'd be like, "The Great."
I fucking love what is it, the tree covenants of Kelly, Grandia 2, Fire Emblem, and Wickham the Great.
Dude, Wickham to this day.
Those are the three things you bring up super regularly.
Dude, it's because I loved him. He was the best. And he was so fun to roleplay, dude. He was just like a little like schmoozer, dude. And I don't know. I love spoony bards. So clearly I'm down for that archetype. But I will say my second favorite character to RP is definitely Ophelia. Because she's dumb. She is so dumb. I love just leaning into like just being an idiot. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's also I'm on the receiving end. I have to scramble to un-idiot her.
So does Aslan, dude. It's so funny because like there's like
Aslan.
Aislinn or whatever.
I know, it's Aslan. She's not here to defend herself. Don't.
Either way, like after we killed the shambling mound, it's like made out of like rotting like garbage, human flesh, bones, and then also like I think plant life or whatever. And so after it's dead and then like its body's dissipating, I'm like, my character just looks down. I'm like, oh, there's a berry, and like I go to try to eat it. And everybody's like slaps it out of her hand because I'm like, ooh, piece of candy.
Insane.
Dude, I want to know what happened if I ate that berry, man.
You probably roll a constitution save and fail and throw up or something.
Yeah. Either way. A little berry, I'm like, ooh, piece of candy. So yeah. That's pretty much what's been going on in our lives. You know, hopefully we will, not hopefully, but we're all going to be holding that obviously that Milan's mom is okay, that though she had that second shot, that it's going to end up, you know, helping her in regards to her ordeal with COVID, and that, you know, hopefully our characters do not die next fucking
I mean,
next session.
I don't think we're going to be in combat anytime soon, but I hope we didn't jinx it. You know?
Yeah. But in the meantime, I got a backup character that I'm really stoked to play. So, but I might make another backup to a backup because apparently this campaign's pretty brutal. So,
yeah. And as a quick, I also don't usually play spellcasters because I don't like starting at too high a level.
Yeah.
So the warlock I have has like a level cap. Like if Fenris dies beyond 5 or higher, I'm not playing a spellcaster. So it'll definitely, I definitely need to have a backup for that scenario. Like if we get past level 4, I will de-level my current warlock level 1 and save her for like a potential future campaign situation.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, and that's the thing is like all the characters that you create and you make or whatever, and you're really passionate about, you can eventually find a way to work them into a campaign if one happens, you know?
Exactly. But yeah, like you were saying, like you were wrapping up.
Yeah, like I was saying when I was wrapping up. But thanks everybody for being here. Listen to the podcast. Again, we're sorry that there wasn't one last week, but I'm sure you can understand because of circumstances, situations, and conditions. But at the end of the day, thanks for being here, and why don't you go ahead and leave us a little comment about a D&D character that you love, or, an archetype that you like to play, or you haven't played and you're kind of interested in. Like, I've never made a paladin. I'm kind of interested in making like a paladin, but not a traditional paladin. I kind of want them to be a fallen one just because edgelord.
Second edgelord of the group.
Second edgelord of the group. Let's go. And so, either way, like, thank you so much for tuning into the pod. Appreciate you being here. Don't forget to hit that bell. Let us, so you can be notified when the next time we pop the fuck back in. And yeah, subscribe so we can get that sweet vanity URL. Mommy Milkers, let's go. But this is one of your esteemed co-hosts, Kelly, signing off, and I'm here with my other esteemed co-hosts.
Still Milan.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Anime pussy.
Yeah, see you guys next week.
See you next week. Fuck Moon Elves. Bye.